Hello and welcome back. I'm Darcy Darkness and this is Confessions from the Darkside. How are you on this wonderful community? And today the wait is over. The review we've been waiting for one of the movies that I really was excited to see. I have now watched and now we're going to review it. It is Long Legs and I'm going to get the disclaimer out of the way. We are full of so much adult content that some of you may think this isn't necessary and some of you may think this isn't needed. If you're one of those people, then thanks for checking us out, but I'll say this only once. If you can't stand the heat, then get the fuck out of my kitchen. Now, for everyone else who likes what we have here, then regular scheduled programming will continue. Shall we get started? And are we ready? Grab yourself a drink, a snack, and let's get comfy to hear about Long Leg, the movie that pretty much I was dying to see from the trailer because the trailer looked incredibly interesting. Let me take you on a dark mystery tour of where we discuss the movie and break it down and what I've been viewing, which is Long Legs. Let's discuss. Is it going to be a part of a new cycle or an ongoing cycle? I think it's an ongoing cycle because it comes under psychological horror, psychological thriller, serial killer, supernatural horror, crime, horror, and thriller, which is pretty much a lot of movies that we already have. And this cycle of the psychological thriller doesn't even need to be horror, but it can class as horror. So again, mainstream movie, not mainstream movie. Or these are the type of movies that are going to kill the cycle. Who knows? Or will this be the calm before the storm, testing the waters? We will see. Let's discuss and break down Long Legs, answer the questions about Long Legs, and see what I actually really thought about Long Legs. Let's get into it. Join me, Darcy Darkness. Are you sitting comfortably? What do I think of this new cycle? Again, I'm not entirely sure if psychological thriller and psychological horror, serial killer and supernatural horror, crime horror, thriller will ever leave because it's such a wide spectrum of, well, subgenres and topics all in the one. And again, lots of people might just see it as a psychological thriller or psychological horror, with psychological thriller with horror aspects and the fact that it's an aspect of based on a serial killer. So let's get started. Is this the new reimagining, taking multiple classics and sewing them together and then giving us everything to work it out? And making us question if you have given it away already. The wait is over, let's discuss. So the movie starts off with T-Rex lyrics on screen. It goes from red and then it starts to open to reality. So we find out the girl at the start is like the Clarice Starling, basically type agent in the story that surrounds no shit, absolutely no shit. You can tell where they're basically starting off similarly to the traumatic events that happened to Clarice when she was a child. They kind of do this with Maika's character as well, where they're kind of laying a backstory of something fucked up has happened to her and she's went into the FBI. I've noticed that Harkin, her name is in this, Maika, and they've made her very analytical. Kind of reminds me of the accountant with Ben Affleck weaponizing autism. They made her like incredibly monotone and made her a loner as well, that she doesn't have anybody and her job is her job and her life basically. So in the 70s, kids, little girls were being abducted and no one knows by who or what or why. And now it's continuing in the present day and no one knows why it goes into cycles. Same MO, vaccines, kids abducted and then the families of the girls are killed in a horrific way and then they're found as they're decomposing. So a wee bit of body horror is in there, so they've not even put that in there. So a creepy looking Nicolas Cage starts talking kind of feminine but creepy to this wee girl in the credits start. Now, if you've seen the pictures of the serial killer, that serial killer is Nicolas Cage. And I've already said it before, Nicolas Cage, he does become his characters and he does play them very well, and lots of people don't like Nicolas Cage, but Nicolas Cage is Nicolas Cage in everything, even in life. He's very eccentric and kind of obscene the way he can be, but that's just him as a person. He's always been that way and we know him and we love him for it. Like I've said before, he always comes to basically play his best game, I would say, when he does his movies. So when people see the movie shit, it's usually not him, it's everything else. FBI, very Silence of the Lambs, but no, you can see where they have tried to make it different, make it stand out. But will it continue? Let's see. Adults doing things other adults don't want to be dealing with, things no one wants to know about. or they assume they don't. And this is basically similar to how Silence and Lambs is. If you can remember the scene where it's like the first like kind of Jane Doe and she was a floater because she was in water, and they put that thing, that like stuff to stop you like smelling like the decomposition of the body. That's what it was. Kind of reminds me of the scene where it was Clarice's first like kind of situation where she was in, where she dealt with a body like that, and the FBI like superior, like senior member of staff, is a bit cocky about it. But everybody's got to have their first when they're in everything. But in that job, I think you always remember, and that's how they kind of have done it for Maika's character Harker. Profiling the suspect very Clarice Starling, but this agent has a very analytical approach, and she's very monotone, like I just said, and dry, but she's very good at what she does, and she seems to be able to get into killers' heads that they haven't been able to do before. Things seem to happen around her, and she cannot explain it, and yet this doesn't frighten her, yet the agency is still treating her like she's some sort of noob. She seems to be taking on her surroundings, as did Clarice. New in the agency, and her partner has been killed in action when she was on the job. And I hate how the character is, because he walks in front of her like he's the man, and he does that, and he's very like, I'm going in first. But again, you're supposed to tell people when you go to the door who you are, and when you walk into a building you're supposed to announce that you're police or FBI or whatever. That's what you're supposed to do. But she doesn't do that either when she goes into the house. The house is very Dexter-like as well. It's all covered in plastic, and it looks like no one's lived there, but they have. And her partner is killed while trying to find this killer, and she's standing outside because something obviously feels weird and odd to her, and she knows that this is the house. Going by the sort of MO of the killer, he does seem to go for the same type of families who live in the same sort of areas, and their house and their life, basically they're all similar like that. Nice big house. It's basically like your white picket fence houses that the girls are being taken from. Perfect surroundings, basically. Special Agent Lee Harker is being debriefed by a voice. The voice, again, very monotone, asking her random questions. There's random pictures, like a shrink's office, very Clockwork Orange. Clockwork Shrink. Long legs, 30 years, still a mystery. The agent still know nothing. She's shadowing her superior at this point, and he is played by Blair Underwood. He's really, really good. I've seen him in small roles like Sex and the City and things like that, but he plays Agent Carter, and she's like shadowing him because her partner's been killed in action. They're just checking to see if she's okay. She's like to go back into the field again, and they seem to work well together. And because of her experience and how she obviously does her job, he seems to be getting quizzed a lot by Agent Carter in the car. They keep asking her like how she knew before it happened. Is it intuition or something else? And again, this movie has a lot of things that are right there in front of you where you don't actually have to work it out. And some people enjoy that. I kind of see it as like where you would have a murder board, where you're working out all the stuff that they actually do in these sort of organizations, and there's a big chunk of it already laid out for you, and it's just you trying to figure it out either before the movie gets into it or will you ever work it out. So all the daughters in the families have a birthday on the 14th. The connection she has, her process, and she's working through the evidence. Now, he takes them before their birthday. That's the thing. And then they're found obviously later on, usually about a month later. And it's weird because no one smells it because the houses aren't joined together. I've noticed that a lot of houses in America over there aren't joined together. They're actually quite spaced out. You wouldn't smell it until, well, people coming to the house. And again, at that time, even now, when people go on holiday, people would notice if no one came in and out because of how the street is laid out. The symbols used in the models over this 30 years are part of a religious text that she was given in the cipher from the killer. He's chosen her to find him, and he sends it in a birthday card, as her birthday is also coming up on the 14th, by the way. And this is why he chose her. Why, again, keep thinking the bigger picture. There is always a bigger picture with psychological horror and thriller. There is always something they are trying to paint for us. Do we know what it is yet. Again, Clarice used her experience and her past to hone her gifts and use them to her advantage, as does Harkin and Longlegs. They have made Harkin a stronger yet fragile woman with a dark past and a darker future to show what can happen in trauma, and this is similar to Silence of the Lambs. So I've noticed a few crossovers. The letters are the only way of connecting him to the crime, no DNA again, making it a puzzle to solve, and no one has managed to do it in 30 years. The killer is manipulating the families without even being around them. They even refer to him being similar to Manson, Charles Manson, because he had a family helping him, and he was just giving them and making them more subservient to him and manipulating them in a way so they would go out and do his bidding. So they, at this point, they still think it was only one guy, but she thinks that there's someone else involved because there's no way he could do what he does in the time he does. There's something else that she thinks, that we all know, that usually serial killers like this don't always work alone. They tend to have someone else, whether they know they're doing it or not. Harker, not a fan of families. She's very drawn from the situation. They have played with her with more of an analytical type of brain, as I said before, very like with Ben Affleck in Accounting Weaponizing Autism, but with the FBI. Her boss's family seem to have accepted her because he's kind of like brought her into his home, Agent Carter, and she meets his wife and his daughter. Yet she's used to being an outsider and being alone. And she does it, I think, for a reason, because you find out later on that her mum is a bit of a nut job, played by the amazing Alicia Witt, who played it incredibly well. Harker is at home, very wary and watching her surroundings. Something feels off, and again, they're playing the music and the way the camera angles are. You know that something's going to happen. Weirdly strange relationship with her own mother. She sounds really high, the mum on the phone. She's very kind of softly spoken, but her speech is delayed, like the way some people who have been through traumatic events in their past. It could be medication, or it literally could be the fact that their brain is in fight or flight, and that's the only way that they can actually communicate, is when they actually talk like that. It's very, are you saying your prayers? That's the way she talks, and it's really, really, she's saying nice things, but also she's not saying nice things, which is also weird. She's very kind of, again, she is very estranged from her daughter. She loves her daughter, yet she doesn't feel like she has a relationship to her, or she wants a relationship with her. But Harker is just like, nah. Harker's like, nah, I fucking live with that person. I'm not going back to that crazy, no way. That's why when her mum phones, she kind of ignores her. Her mum just acts like she's been through something and she'll never be the same again. It's like she's stuck and she needs a full restart. She asks the same questions, like I said, in the same tone, and it's just all off, so no wonder she doesn't like spending time with her mother. The movie is based in the right now, but it's more of a story of how she became who she is and why and how. She is more connected to the story than she realises. Her mother is a mystery, but I worked her out quite fast. It was very predictable and there was no twists like Silence of the Lambs. This was very cut and dry and had only one purpose, to like Harker to the killer and the killer to her, and why he chose her. The encounter from the start of the movie, you hear more. Heavy breathing like a porno. Very pornographic. Hallucinations in times of mania and stress can skew our view of things that are actually happening, what's not happening, and what we actually want to see. And that's another thing that you see with Harker and her mother. Her mother obviously can remember exactly what happened, but whatever Harker has been put through after that by her mother, then it's subjective what she actually sees. She doesn't always see what happened because her brain is making up what she wants to see. And again, our brains are magnificent for doing that, especially in times of trauma. Now the killer abducts the girls before their birthdays, and the letter is sent, and then the future is already sealed at this point, and so is the family, as the girls are never found before they carry out the family's demise. He wants to be found out, but only by Harker. This is why he's handed over the cipher, so that she can work out his next move and why he does this in the first place. It's very religious, but in a dark way. The killer seems to be very disturbed, no shit, but also a victim of trauma. It seems he's a very zealot-like character and is doing everything for the cause. Again, people who have been through trauma of loss or abuse, it sounds terrible to say, but a lot of the time they're easily manipulated, even by themselves, when they read a lot of things that they become obsessed with, especially in religion, especially when they need something to make them feel safe and they need something to care about. So the way he goes on about his religion and the way things need to happen for a reason, it's not far from how some people act when they've been through a traumatic event. Super intelligent people trolling authorities, that's what I got from the killer, and then it turns deadly, as it does. The message says they are going to kill her mother, and not in a very nice way. More murders, but no clues, as per usual. She has the cipher, and they aren't aware at this moment that he has been in contact with her. She's keeping this close to her chest, because again, she's new, and she's had a lot of things happen in the FBI to get to where she is right now. So she's being a wee bit cautious, which again is not anything like anybody else would do. Everybody else would act cautious, especially because you don't know. There could be someone in the agency that actually could be involved in this. She doesn't have really anybody she can trust. She doesn't really know anybody and she keeps to herself, so I can understand why she doesn't until she has a bigger picture and more pieces to the puzzle. But she's the only one who has the answers. And no one else, yet no one picks up on the fact that she has answers to things that they have not been able to answer for 30 years, but she's been able to fucking answer them, and no one fucking picks up on that. So I don't know if they're dumb or they're trying to dumb down everybody else to make her look more intelligent. In the story, the killer wants someone to play with, and reaching out to put an agent they most are likely know who they are and want some company and an accomplice they want to share what they do. So again, there was kind of like that, the way Hannibal is, the continuation of the story of Hannibal Lecter and obviously everything like Silence of the Lambs. They play on the fact that he wanted someone to carry on or continue his work. That's the way Hannibal went, where it was kind of, they had a relationship, built it up, and it was subliminally him trying to get. Will was the character who's played with Hugh Dancy, and he basically was seeing Hannibal Lecter and his job. He worked at crime scenes and stuff. He worked for the FBI as a criminal profiler, and he ends up becoming a pupil to Hannibal. And this is what I really get from Longlegs trying to. He saw something different in Harker all the way back, and then he obviously has kept her on his radar, kind of thing. He knew there was something different, and that's what you get a lot in this film, where he's literally trying to show her that she's more than what she thinks she is or who she believes to be, kind of thing. And that's the kind of thing that a lot of people have said they're kind of mixed up when they've watched the film, because it's very Hannibal, very Silence of the Lambs 1 minute, and then it just kind of goes off on a tangent and it doesn't make any sense, and then they've got to backtrack and then tell you something from the past that kind of ties it in with the story, so it is kind of like all over the place. The mother and child in bed for a month. Basically, their bodies are decaying and getting into a state of decomposition in their beds. So body horror, murder, psychological mind games, traumatic experiences, a wide range of topics right there in just that scene. She again speaks monotone, and she is happy about the case, and her mother says not nice things. Well, yeah, she works for the FBI and she does a lot of profiling, and she has to get into the mind of killers, so it's not a nice job. And I said that earlier. Adults doing the jobs they don't even want to do, and they don't even want to share them with others because no one should have to deal with that. But hey, we live in a world where shit happens. Her birthday is next week apparently, and her mother actually asks if she's doing her prayers again. What the actual fuck? Religious mother. Her mother is, again, like I said, Alicia Witt, and she plays the mother so well. She really was my favourite in this, as this actress is awesome in everything I've seen her in. She's very believable when she's talking to her daughter. Like, she's estranged from her, but she loves her. But does she love her? Does she hate herself? Who the fuck knows? Also, the way she detaches herself from her family and her relationship with her mother, I'm thinking something has happened to her and her family, and she says, I'm still your only daughter. Was there another, or why say that? Was her childhood not a happy one? Did something more happen? And again, it's all over the place and choppy. Nine Circles of Hell is the book. She sees the symbols and she has worked out something from the code and cipher and messages. We keep seeing a goat-headed figure all over the place, and again, goat heads, You know what that means. He has found his algorithm, his dates, and the letters. They find one of the original families that their farm is under 90 miles away. Now, this actually has a victim, a survivor, but she's now in a mental health facility. So they go for a wander and see if they can find anything. So the survivor, who's the only survivor of this tragedy, one of the first that's been found, I would say, and documented, is the shitty Sabrina from Netflix. You know, Kiernan Shipka. But she actually is quite good. She is good in this, I've got to say. She plays a very unstable young woman very, very well. She's started talking for the first time since her family was killed. She talks about random stuff. She's a bit crazy. Hasn't spoken about the tragedy while she's been in the psychiatric facility over 100 miles away from her past. But she literally is playing with Harkin and saying that she's going to fucking kill her and stuff like that, and how she can literally destroy her and stuff. She's been very, very aggressive towards Harkin, and she keeps saying that she's met her before, and Harkin's like, no, you haven't. We've never met before. Or have they? You never know. The symbol's the date 6 days before, 6 days after their birthday of the 14th. A triangle of sixes, a symbol from the book of the 9 circles of hell, and 9 is, when you put it upside down, is a 6, and this matches up with the algorithm, so working out the next steps with the cipher. And after her visiting the last member of the family from the farm, she seems to be attached to the killer. She was visited by someone, and that is when she has started talking. She also acts as if she knows Harker and they have met before. Just because Harker cannot remember doesn't mean it didn't happen, as we find out with Clarice in Silence of the Lambs. She had blocked out abuse growing up when she went to live with her aunt and uncle, and it seems that is the same way in Harker. Carrie Ann's all sorts of fucked up, doing the limbo, the long dream, long legs. That's some of the shit she comes out with. It just makes no sense whatsoever. She's talking about her mother and how her mother hated her for ruining her body. This is Carrie Ann, who's played by Kiernan Shipka. She has a scar of childbirth, and she said her father was a good man, but he did what he did for a reason, killing a priest and her mother. Gosh, I didn't want to forget him, she said. She sent something for the man downstairs. If he told her jump out of a window, she would. She's happy as peaches to kill her and watch she is a damaged girl. Dirty, flirty little angel bitch. Now play nice. Yeah, again, she plays mental very, very well. They're at the farm again searching to find any clues that they may have missed originally, because obviously they found the site. She's found the cipher, and she kind of knows that she's looking for something. The windows in the farm are kind of like a Dutch style house, kind of similar to the Amityville horror house. There's a crucifix on the floor covered in hay, and then they open up the floor to find another clue. A note with an inverted triangle with a smiley face. A doll, and the eyes are closed and then open. She's handmade, apparently, highly skilled craftsmanship. The brown, as he's calling it, emits a frequency making her remember, and it shows the killer. He's calling her Carrie Ann. She is the dark and isn't afraid of it. And then she covers her up. They take the doll to a corner, and the corner swore it was whispering his wife's name. How weird is that? It seems to happen to the families. The father takes them out from the whispers of this doll. See, Nicholas Cage is in a store at this point, and he looks so different. It's so amazing how he is being created, like the character, and he is creepy as fuck, I've got to say. When I seen the pictures, I was like, holy fuck. He kind of looked like a woman to me, like the way they've done it. I thought they kind of, the way they did Buffalo Bill, when Buffalo Bill was making the suit out of the woman, and he was wanting to be a woman, but he didn't want to be a woman, he just wanted to dress up as a woman type thing. They kind of have done that with Nicolas Cage's face, where he actually looks incredibly feminine, and we don't entirely know, like, if he's changed his face to be like that, or he actually just looks like that. And it's hard to believe that this is Nicolas Cage behind all that. It really is. The girl behind the counter is creeped out in the shop. Very odd encounter, even for us watching it, the viewers. He asks her when her birthday is, and he kind of has like a soft voice. It's quite feminine. And she shouts for her dad, saying the creepy guy is back and he's trying to be weird. Nicolas Cage loses his shit in the car. It's always good time when he does this. I think in every movie he loses his shit at some point. It's probably just something that people expect from him because he has eccentricities. Posters of Mark Bolan, okay, with no with long legs, with what looks like a Bible. This is a room that's kind of bare. No memory of the doll, but neither can Harker remember the doll. The dolls are used as a magical control. Like we said, the coroner thought he could hear his wife's name being said, which is weird. Looked into her file, and her birthday's the 14th of January, and her mother filed a police report for a strange man before her 9th birthday. And that is the agent, her boss, and he says that he was going to send her to visit her mother to find out any information about the man. Her going back to a place that she's trying so hard to forget, and obviously she doesn't return to very often. She's very anxious, and you notice there's a few of her traits that come out. I don't know if anybody else has traits who aren't autistic, but I can imagine that people do have traits to themselves when they go to a place that they're not comfortable and they're going back to their past where they don't want to go. Making her face her mother when she avoids her, obviously for some reason, we do not know. Again, I had this figured out that who her mother actually was in the story and how the story was playing out, but I still watch it to the end because it's Nicolas Cage. He was, again, it's all about horrific traumatization, and I was there for it. Mother, did you say your prayers? And she says, never once. These scared me. And she laughs. Again, this is another wee thing. She didn't specify who they're praying to. She didn't say, like, are you speaking to God or the Lord or anything like that. She just says prayers and she doesn't really specify at this point. And for her to say that they scared her, then doesn't sound like a regular prayer now, does it? She laughs. Our prayers don't help. They don't do a goddamn thing. The mum looks like a hoarder. Their house is fucking head to toe with shite, as hoarders are. Her mum even has teeth in little baggies. Her mum was once a nurse apparently, and she is seeing a snake, like, in the house. She's the child of a single mother, and she seems to have been both mother and father, as most single parents actually have to be both parents. She was also a nurse for 8 years, but her mother is reliving, or she is reliving a memory of that night when she had a shotgun out as she saw a strange man around her daughter and her home. Her mother is very weirdly sedated and slow, and she cannot remember anything apparently. The brain is a wonderful thing to protect us, or is it to trick us? You were allowed to grow up in a cruel world where the little things disappear. She hoards so she won't forget the little things. Now her boss said that about her boss already said that about his daughter, and that's why she kept little things from her childhood and as a baby, so he could remember her, because it's little things about keeping some of her childhood around so she doesn't grow up too quickly or too soon. Her mother seems to have stayed in a place of safety where her brain is in fight or flight. But why? And she has remained there. Who knows why? She goes through a bunch of old Polaroids and it triggers the memories that she has been hiding. Again, object can do that, especially if you've been hiding yourself and hiding some traumatic event that can happen. It's like a wall in your brain and then it just comes down. He showed up, she took his picture, and he sung to her mother saying he will come back twice. Now, after this encounter, he is shown up at a bus stop with a guitar on his back looking out of place, and they arrest him and he wants to speak to Hawker and no one else. Again, very Silence of the Lambs. He speaks in riddles again, very Hannibal Lecter, and the riddles aren't riddles and random words, it's the way he rambles and that he knows she will get his message and she will understand it and figure it out. He wanted to be caught by her and he let her take the picture and keep it. But why was she allowed to survive? What made her special? Now, the photo she took, no one ever checked back when her mum actually reported the strange man in the 70s, because a lot of things were happening in the 70s, a lot of serial killers, again, children, young women, everything like that. You think if the kid had evidence, they would have looked into it, but they fucking didn't. Which again, it's absolutely mental that people have been killed who could have been saved, but they didn't look into it. That's typical shoddy police work right there. She's there and he says, "Happy birthday, Lee Harkin, and you'll be there." And he keeps singing, and then happy birthday to her while the FBI watches. Apparently he did it for 24 minutes, trolling happy birthday Harkin, and he has letters and the handwriting matches the notes from the crime scene. She quotes Revelation and she is missing the 13th. His accomplice is going to kill one more family. Always has an accomplice. She says he's using someone to help him, someone the families and the people would trust to allow to come in. Meet downstairs is his friend. Keeps talking about downstairs, and he's referring to the devil at this point. Nicolas Cage is creepy as ever. He's crying to see her. The seventh, you accept the gift and destroy yourself, or keep it and now down and go all the way down. Dirty work as it cleans like a mop, like a rat. You don't wear cologne, it's the accomplice. Is it cologne though? Is it perfume? It could be something else. 1974, her house was brighter, immaculate work. Your work's over and it's done. You will be here for the rest of your life. I am done. Longlegs saying he will be every bit everywhere. Who is the man downstairs? Why don't you ask your mommy? That's what he says to Lee Harkin. My mother doesn't know anything. Or does she? Is that what we were led to believe? Her mother just gave up her work to look after her daughter, became a hoarder, sounds like a stoner. Like she took some bad LSD in the 70s and literally never returned home. That happens. And again, it happened to someone called Sid Barrett. He took so much LSD that he literally ended up in a wee world of his own for the rest of his life until his demise. It does happen. Hail Satan. Then I must warn you, not for the faint-hearted it stops. You would wish him to stop, but he does not until he's finished what he has started. He bashes his head over and over again on the table, and his face is all mangled. He was the messenger, but he still managed to hit her between the money shot with his blood, yeah. She's covered in blood right across her chest because they've like kind of opened her blouse basically, and again, most FBI agents wouldn't be doing that. It sounds terrible, but they wouldn't be. Because there is most likely a dress code. But he still managed to hit her, like I said. Blood everywhere. The survivor in the mental ward jumped out a window and took her own life. Was it done to lead them to the farm? The doll, her mother, the killer. She was part of it now. How much manipulation and torment that girl went through to listen to the word of a man who was supposed to kill her, yet he chose to keep her safe and lock her away for everyone's safety. Another agent came with her to her mother's house because she goes back and realised you can imagine more casualties and she needs to fulfil her part now. And yet Harkin is still under some spell thinking she can prevent it. The heavy breathing she does when she's dealing with everything and other than her job is a control mechanism, and she counts when she's anxious. The excessive breathing, again I know because I do it myself. She's come in and shouted mom. Her partner for the day has been shot in her vehicle, and she is dressed as a nun. She tells her to put the gun down, but again I said to you, she kind of looks like a nun, but nurses look like this in the 50s and 60s, look similar to nuns. I called him He's Free, Cobble's dead. The doll of Harkin, her mother shot. Her mother is telling a story about how they didn't receive visitors, and she's done this before, and the doll maker made a doll for the woman with the terrible magic, the work of the devil with a little bit of him, and made the little girl to forget what to see and what not to see, and the devil wanted her for himself. She's reliving what happened to her mother that day, a doll, and it was a veil. Very again, nun-like. To spare her daughter, she had to help him take families and get the dolls inside, and the dolls with the devil inside did the job. She had to watch again. Fight or flight to save her daughter. They used the gift, a prize from the church, so she would be able to enter the home and it wouldn't look dodgy. But the deaths, before what happened about them, her mother killed anyone who worked it out, and she woke up in his bed below her house, and the phone is ringing. She lived with this monster downstairs. Harkin. She can't remember anything. Her mum seems to have manipulated her to not remember anything from childhood. So manipulating someone to not remember things is dangerous because you tend to forget everything, good and bad. And again, I have much experience with this myself. PTSD, fight or flight, abuse. She didn't remember because she was being manipulated and abused so that her brain wouldn't remember, and she chose to do this to protect herself. No wonder a monster living below you. A creepy call talking about a birthday party. She drives her mother's old vehicle and she was screaming. It's her boss's daughter's birthday. At the start, the daughter had invited Harkin to the birthday party, and he says, "This is my mother. She's the accomplice. Gotta cut the cake." That's the mum of the agent. And her mother says the woman is already dead and the little girl will be next. They aren't themselves. They really aren't themselves, and that's what people had kept saying. The doll had been like subliminally, obviously on. It was subliminally giving them messages getting into the father's head to kill his family without him even realising it, and it's adapted him and changed him. Mom, why are you doing this? Harking to her mother. Burn and twist in hell forever. That's why she's doing it, to protect her daughter and cover herself, and she has to cover herself in the victim's blood like a sacrifice. She'll keep doing it over and over again to protect her daughter. Hail Satan. She kills her boss and she shoots her mother. Before entering the house, a flicker of the crowned goat figure happens. No bullets, unable to destroy the doll. And then she hears Longlegs singing Happy Birthday. She is crying and sees Longlegs. Hail Satan, blows a kiss, and then it ends with T-Rex and the credits are all backwards. So that was Longlegs. I felt like it was predictable but enjoyable to watch. My husband did not find it enjoyable to watch. He did not think it was a good movie. I thought it was good in bit, but hey, it felt all over the place the way the story played out, and all the stories weren't aligning to make it make any more sense. It felt choppy at times. They picked the lead woman right, Maika Monroe. I will say this, that I love this actress over and over again. The movies I've seen her in, all different genres, but nothing falters her craft and her presence on screen. She's a remarkable actress. I love seeing what she will do next and what character she will become. And this really excites me to know that there are still actors out there who turn it out, pull out every stop, and just keep getting better with each and every role they play. Nicolas Cage, everyone knows I love this actor no matter the movie, the budget, the script, he's the same no matter what the movie is. He brings it, that Nicolas Cage magic, that wonder, and we are here living it with him. Have you seen Longlegs? What is your opinion? Let me know in the comments below. Let's see, we have some reviews. 1 out of 10, so it says by Trozon, giving the marketing team an award. What a mess. I love a good horror movie, but heck, I love a good B movie. I love a cult classic, but the story makes no sense. I mean it, no sense. There are scenes that seem entirely disconnected from the plot, I agree. Why is Cage at a bus stop? Why are they investigating a farmhouse in the dark with flashlights? Why is she psychic? Wait, is there a plot at all? Is it camp? Am I supposed to be in on the joke? But no, it's just a mess of a movie. The main actress is playing it straight and also dull, but Cage, I don't agree with that, but Cage is hamming it up to the ninth degree. Oh, and did I mention there's not one single moment watching this movie that you feel dread, not a single moment of terror, fright, or tension. I didn't feel that either, to be fair. Absolute Crap by Abicio. There is nothing in this movie worth losing time with. The trailer was more suspenseful and trapping than the movie itself, which we always get in movies these days. It's not about a psycho killer, but more about sell my soul to the devil. Nicolas Cage's face is barely seen, mostly his voice, but in any way is not Oscar worthy. Is any movie really Oscar worthy these days? Probably not. The main actress, Maika Monroe, which was usually good in other movies. I think I'm trying to say she's usually good in other movies, is absolutely inexpressive and frankly boring to watch. In fact, the whole movie is absolutely boring. I still do not understand why divide it into chapters when the action is basically not changed. The writer/director has no idea about pace or even keep things interesting. The absurd end did not help either. I did agree the fact that it felt like they were building up to a story and they were getting a backstory, but they kind of went off and did something else. Then they kept coming back to her and then going to the future. It was like flip flopping between past, future, and like current, but it kind of stopped with the killings when he handed the cipher over. Like he was trying to like work it out, and it kind of ended with the fact that she either was going to become what her mother did, or it was her connection to the goat head, which is Satan, because Satan wanted her for himself. And the way they portrayed the character, he kind of came across as a paedophile more than anything else, because he was going after wee girls and basically telling them that they're the one and they're special and stuff like that. It's very, very, with Silence of the Lambs, it was more about women being taken, and Hannibal Lecter himself, he didn't just kill women, he killed anyone he wanted to be honest. So at least with that there was kind of an actual continuation, but with this it was kind of choppy, and I did say that I didn't really like the way the story was going with that. Got another one, Doesn't Make Any Sense by Rory Kitchen Coup. The first part was very interesting and well made. However, the third act was just awful, kind of a rip off of Silence of the Lambs, it riddled with plot holes and character choices making no sense. The FBI was probably the most useless and stupid agents in any movie. I did agree with that. The main character and titular character were just nonsense. I regret buying my movie ticket when I could have waited a couple of weeks to stream it. Calling this a masterpiece is just insanity, but they've got to get your arse on a seat these days, so they'll say any sort of bullshit to get you there. Spoilers and unanswered questions. After Lee's doll was destroyed, she just takes a nap and there's no change. The mom was doing all this to protect her, but then pulls a knife on her at the birthday party, so the 20 plus years of helping the devil was pointless. Is the killing plot ruined if the family doesn't allow a creepy stranger into their home? Couldn't Longlegs mail the metal orb to the family or throw it through their window? Why was Longlegs helping the devil? Was he trying to get caught by leaving letters? Was he sneaking in after the fact to leave the letters? How did she get his victims' How did he get his victims' birthdays? There was no evidence of creepy dolls at the crime scene. Why was Lee an FBI agent? How did she not notice a creepy doll maker in her basement for a decade? Exactly. And characters' actions and motives just makes no sense. Boring main character and boring villain. Horrible. I want my time back. I feel that about a lot of movies, which is Patrick Keown. Awful, terrible, disappointing, embarrassing. There are not enough negative words in the plot. Sorry, negative words in the English or any other language to describe how bad I thought this movie is. For what little plot there is, it's so poorly written and delivered so badly, but I'm shocked it's even considered a finished product. Here are some quick observations, and this is coming from a huge horror fan. What? It's a fairly short movie, it is, but it's also dull and nonsensical that it feels like 3 hours. I looked at my watch multiple times wondering when it'd be all over. Yeah, I felt like it was really, really long as well. And movies that are keeping my attention don't ever seem to be on screen for that long, and sometimes they're over 2 hours, and that's what you know with this film and films that are actually written better. What was the whole doll brain thing about? What? I keep seeing audience members looking at each other in disbelief, particularly after the killer sang or said something nonsensical. Has Nicolas Cage, as an actor who's assumingly chooses his films, lost his mind? Have you never seen Nicolas Cage? That man has never ever been, well, he's always looked like that. He's always acted like he's an eccentric lunatic, and that's why we love him. The twist, if you can call it a twist, is a letdown, not that you have high hopes to begin with. Did a presidential candidate write this movie? Dialogue is strung together with nonsense like a really bad debate speech. Alicia Witt can't act. I'm sorry, but Alicia Witt can, and she was very, very good. She was basically playing a character that has been through trauma. What? And also she was, not only was she a victim, she also was the perpetrator as well. She was one who was inserting herself into the lives of these families that were being killed by themselves, basically, because of the doll. Yeah, she had to obviously pull herself apart and detach herself somehow. Ridiculous farce. This movie was with great hype never delivers. To compare it to Silence of the Lambs is comparing world wrestling entertainment with the Olympics. Well, at the moment, I would say it was closer to the WWE, WWF, and the Olympics because of the fucking drama that happened. There is nothing here that is scary, suspenseful, or thrilling. A young female FBI agent appears to have psychic abilities. There is a serial killer played by Cage. I don't think it's psychic abilities, but they're trying to push. They're trying to say she's got a connection to the killer and a connection to basically Longlegs and the bigger picture of Satan. They're trying to say that Satan picked her or told Longlegs that she was going to be the next one or his or whatever, which is incredibly creepy. So there is a serial killer played by Cage who goes by the name of the movie. It seems that several families were murdered in the beginning of 1966 and all had a daughter born on the 14th day of the month. Yet, in each case, there is no break-in and the murders appear to be done by the father of the family. Longlegs is a white-faced man who appears very feminine and is a Satan worshipper. The protagonist met him right before her 9th birthday, yet she can't remember him. And again, it's not a farce when you think about it. When you've been through a traumatic experience, you can forget everything until you're triggered by something. Again, I know from experience. The acting is poor, the dialogue is insipid, and there is nothing that really holds your attention. The explanation of the murders and the ending were both insane. Don't waste your time watching this movie. It says, wasn't a horror / mystery, but an absolute misery by Annie. Today I watched Longlegs and confidently say it was a huge waste of 2 hours of my life, as dumb as the title is. This movie developed an excruciatingly slow pace and never even really developed into anything meaningful. The plot was terrible, lacking any form of coherence or intrigue. I was expecting a horror movie, but Longlegs failed to deliver even a single suspenseful moment. I do agree there was no suspense. There was absolutely nothing scary about it, I agree. Instead of gripping terror, I was left with frustration and disappointment because there was a lot of plot holes and things that weren't answered. And to my dismay, I find it highly suspicious that this movie has garnered positive reviews. It's baffling how anyone could find the merit in such a lackluster film. The praise it has received feels unwarranted and perplexing. If you value your time and enjoy genuine horror, steer clear of Longlegs. Film is a regrettable misstep in the genre and a poor excuse for a horror movie. Save yourself the agony and watch something else. Now, my rating for Longlegs is 2.5 out of 5. And yes, it was clever in parts of the story, but the choppiness and the plot holes really brought the score down. But the actors, like I said, I love Nicolas Cage and I love Micah Monroe, and I think they played their characters very well, and so did Alicia Witt. But there was plot holes in the story, and there was things that I didn't think needed to be there, and there was things that should have been in there because there was things that didn't add up, and there was no explanation on why they were there and why they were part of this story. And again, with the doll being her, he created a doll like her, yet he was killing families already. So again, this is what kind of has made me think, if he made a doll that looked like Lee Harkin, but the murders were happening even before she was born, then how would he know how to create a doll that looked like her? That makes no sense. No sense whatsoever. Because it looks like her as a little girl, the doll. And she didn't even notice and recognise the doll looking like herself. I actually thought that maybe they were making the doll look like each child that had been killed, and I can understand why he did that. But again, he would have to be close enough to know them and get to know them and know the child and be taking pictures of the child. And again, you'd probably be caught in the 70s being dodgy, taking pictures of children. And yes, it was a more simpler time, but shit did happen then, and there's a few things that just don't add up. And if he was supposed to be the one, then he wouldn't be killing her anyway. So her mother doing the killing and sacrificing other families and children, etc., then that would make no sense. If Lee was the one and it was the one that they wanted, then why would she have to kill to keep her safe if Satan wanted her in the first place? There is also that big massive plot hole right there. With the ending, I didn't feel like it was a build up and there was nothing being thrown at us at the end. It just ended. So it kind of really, the ending wasn't really that great. It was just like, is that really it? There was nothing at the end. There was no hidden scene to kind of tie anything together. Not any crazy from like Nicolas Cage maybe doing something stupid or losing his shit at the end. No, nothing, no explanation whatsoever. If you haven't had the chance to view Longlegs, will you? That is the question. I am actually going to see if there's any reviews that are similar to what mine would be, because they're doing it out of 10 on IMDb, so it would be around a 5 out of 10 then. The more I think about it, the less I like it, by Nicholas Roop. Just got out of the theatre, and my initial thoughts in the film were that it had good acting, a fantastically captured feeling of dread, and that the first half was a slam dunk. One of the best first halves of the film I've seen for this kind of flick. The way it was brilliantly shot and how it had me on the edge of my seat, again, I wasn't wondering what was going to happen next. It was the second half where it became problematic for me. The second half of the film focuses far too much on the detective and not nearly enough on the killer and his motives. It all seems to be lost in there somewhere, and Oz Perkins cannot for the life of him they'll figure it out. I'm still not sure what Longlegs was even trying to accomplish. Some sort of spell to appease the devil or a demon to create a voodoo doll army that controls humans, and then he just dies, just like that. The film just lost me. I really had a notion of where the film was going when she first visited her mother, but I didn't know it was going to be that predictable. The only thing I didn't see coming was the dolls, but even that wasn't the most incentive plot device ever created. Here's another point to be made. The film is just not scary. Tense, yep. Thrilling even, sure, in parts, but scary, not one bit. I think Hollywood just had the idea that Satanism is the general public fear, so it's automatically scary to the viewer, which it isn't. It's not to me when almost every single horror movie focuses on that nowadays. It's always the devil or a demon or a ghost. It kind of just gets boring. Overall, I don't think this film is a bad movie, but I don't think it was a good movie either. Fantastic acting and amazing direction doesn't make an entire film flourish, and that's what I keep saying about The Crow. The writing has to be there too, and this one just missed the mark for me. Maybe I'll watch it again and have a different opinion on it later, but for now it remains middle of the road for me. 2.5 Satanist doll conspiracies out of 5. Heavy breathing. Nick Anja Chopra. First, the good. Amazing opening sequence. That entire scene is perfect. Great gripping atmosphere, masterful cinematography, beautiful audio work, and decent acting. The tension this film wove over its entire course was palpable, helped along by the amazing work the technical cinematography, audio, etc. team did. And again, this is their job. I even really appreciated the jump scares. What fucking jump scares? Because while they were still jump scares, they were used sparingly and well done. Again, didn't jump scare once. The and I don't jump scare easily, but my husband does. He has jump scared at a few things because of the tones. It's the shepherd's tone that tends to do that to a lot of people. Which brings us to the bad. Sorry, the investigative aspect of the story was intriguing. I wish it was more fleshed out. Perhaps I would have enjoyed the movie a lot more if they had if it were a crime thriller with a supernatural aspect rather than a horror movie with an investigative aspect. Which brings us to the bad. Pretty much everything apart from the movie apart from the above, the movie had made no sense, and I don't see this lightly. It's not poorly presented; it's poor source material. Even with the excellent technical work, a movie must be more than just technical excellent to actually work. Was this it? No. Nick Cage did an amazing job as a titular character. He's just living his best life. Everyone else did a good job too, but I did not like the lead actor. Are you fucking kidding me? Their work on screen was immersion breaking and took me out of the movie more often than not. Well, I actually I act not like I act like her. I don't do it on purpose, obviously. It's just me. But again, I can relate to how she acts because that's how I talk and how I act mostly anyway. That's why I enjoyed seeing them portray her like that. But Clarice Starling had more charisma, I've got to say, and it's the Jodie Foster one I'm talking about. Even Julianne Moore's one had more, but hey. The story was just awful, truly. The entire premise, especially the investigative part of the story, which I liked, just didn't work with the horror part of the story, so much so that I wondered if they were writing a crime thriller but shoehorned into horror. That's what it felt like. Wasn't anything horror, I would say, really at all. Also, what is it? With every scene having us watch the lead actor and make uncomfortable faces with heavy breathing in the background, because you know what that is? It's a fucking coping mechanism, and if you don't know what that is, you obviously haven't had to cope through anything or survive. Extremely irritating. I already knew what was going to the title of my review halfway through the movie, and it just got worse from there. Summary. Certainly not worth the hype and far from deserving of being called a masterpiece, and I don't think anyone ever took the best horror movie of the decade declaration seriously, but even so, don't let this sway you. It's not even horror. It isn't the best horror of the year. And I agree. Again, most people are saying Nicolas Cage as a Real Housewife with a botched facelift. I mean, yeah, I had the same curiosity and expectations. Nicolas Cage took me out of the movie, which I don't want to say because I liked him in Leaving Las Vegas, but he was acting like a goofball. It just made me wonder which is scarier, acting loopy dipsy crazy, wacky dacky wee, or acting subdued, mysterious, cold, quiet, and malevolent. Nick was just totally wacky, dacky, dipsy, doopsy, and it made me chuckle and roll my eyes a little, which I don't think that was the intention. There are things I loved about this movie. The beginning was well. I wish the Satan thing didn't take over the whole movie because, girl, that ain't scary. But a creepy serial killer is. This movie could have gone in a terrifying serial killer direction, but instead it decided to be fantastical and dipsy, doopsy, pipsy, poopsy, wacky, dacky, ding dong, bing bong, girl, bye. Yeah, that was someone's review, and I did not ad-lib that at all. People are saying that even though Nicolas Cage was a main character and a lead role, he felt like he was a supporting act. It did feel like that. It didn't really. When I'm reading the reviews now and thinking back when I watched it, he didn't get the time he got. And they didn't really go into him as a whole. They didn't go into his backstory. They didn't really talk about him and how he became how he was and who he was, like you would do when you're profiling an actual serial killer. They didn't really do that. They didn't really go down that route, which was kind of annoying. And I'm probably putting you off the movie right now by saying that. If you haven't had the chance to view Longlegs, will you? Do you love Nicolas Cage? If so, favourite quote, favourite movie, favourite persona in the comments below. Let us all get Cage about it. If you like content like this, remember you can go check us out in the Confessions from the Dark Side social media platforms, which is Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Amazon Music, Buzzsprout, and Spotify. Let us know what you think over on our social media platforms, and let's get chatting about these topics, all the topics. Let's grow our community and spread how awesome the horror community actually is. If you want to get to know us as individuals, then you can check us out in the links below. I'm Darcy Darkness. As you know, my channel is Behind the Ash Reviews, and yes, the spelling is difficult. No, I'm not changing it. I love it. Just get used to it. And I have a YouTube, and Instagram, and a Twitch. Lunar has a YouTube, a Twitch, and Instagram, and his channel is Lunar X Rising. If you need to reach out at any point, you can reach out to us via email at confessions_on-the-darkside, all lowercase, all no spaces. No spaces whatsoever at gmail.com. Darcy is behind the mash reviews at gmail.com, and Luna is lunaxrising at gmail.com. And that was The Wait Is Over. This is from Confessions from the Dark Side, and that was the review of Long Legs. Have I made you not want to see it? Have I made you want to see it? Let me know in the comments below. And I'll see you in the next one. Later.